So for the easy ones, we'll apply our power laws, and I think for some of the more complicated ones, like if you were on a test and you're like, uh-oh, I don't know what to do, use expanded form, because it'll just save you. It's a safety net. Okay. So this one, we have a power to a power for a. That means multiply the exponents. So we're going to get y to the power of 12. Because 3 times 4 is 12. Now the next one, the squared, if you're really stuck on this, it means that there's 2 of what's inside the brackets. Okay, or you can take the squared and put it onto both things. So you're going to get 16y squared. For c, the cubed is going to go on everything. So some of you might want to write 5 cubed x, like I'll even go back to Friday. Like maybe you need an intermediate step, right? Can everybody see that okay? It's not necessarily clear. Right, now you can go back. What 5 cubed is 525, 125. 125 x to the power of 6, y 12. Okay. Any questions so far? We all right? Again, expanded form will only get you so far. I don't necessarily want to write this out 4 times. So just use the power law, right? And again, you might want to do this. I don't know. A question for you. When you multiply something by itself an even number of times, what do you think happens? Is it negative? I probably shouldn't have written it like this, and I'll show you why. We've talked about this before. If you were, let's say you didn't know off the top of your head what negative 2 to the power of 4 was, and you went over to your calculator, and the way I have it written right now, you went over to your calculator and you went, okay, negative 2 to the power of 4. That's what you typed in. What's the calculator going to do? This is related to your exponent laws, actually. Opal?
Equal 2 to the power of 4 and then just add those things.
Yeah, the negative hasn't actually been touched by the squared, right? Everybody seen that? The only way, and this is what I'm saying, I wrote this poorly for you. This is my bad. Right? This is going to say negative 2 with a 4 on it. That's what your calculator's reading. Like it's not even touching the negative. Right? So the way to fix that or mitigate it is to put a bracket around it. And now you know that power of that exponent of 4 has to go to everything inside the bracket. Right? And so a negative 1 to the power of 4, negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1, that's a positive number because you've multiplied an even number of negatives. Okay, so that's just an important distinction to make. You have to be careful, right? There's all sorts of what I like about this is starting to give you reasonings why we did some of the things we did at the beginning of the course. Some of the warnings I gave you with using a calculator or whatever, right? That's so common. You wouldn't believe how often that kids write this. Nope. Shocking to me. It doesn't matter how many times I say it, it still happens. And that's because we just turn our brains off. We go to the calculator, we type things, and we get wrong answers. Right? Very, 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 very common, this. Okay? When you see something in negatives, make it explicit and put it in brackets. Okay? So anyway. Long conversation, side rail. Negative 2 to the power of 4, did we decide what that answer is? Negative 2 times negative 2 would be 4, times negative 2 would be negative 8, times negative 2 would be positive 16. And then x to the power of 7, y to the power of 4. Lots of questions on this one, that's why I like this question. The squared only applies to the bracket that it's on. Yes, sorry, did I make a mistake?
Wouldn't x be to the power of 12?
Sorry, you're right. Sorry, see what I mean? Very good. Very good. You're right. Don't make that mistake. I did a lot of talking in between doing that question, actually. I lost train of thought. That's what I'm going to chalk it up to anyway. Okay. Good catch. Okay. You might want to have 2 steps for this one. Okay. I'd put that squared on the first bracket. I deal with that. So I'd like not distribute it, but just do the power law for that bracket that it's on, and then have a separate step multiplying the 2 brackets together after you've done that. Okay. So 2 steps at least I would say here. I'm going to leave the first bracket alone for a sec. And then I'm going to have the squared goes on the negative, so it turns positive. The squared goes on the 2 and also the 3, and I'm multiplying, right? So I'm going to get x to the power of 4, y to the power of 6. Would everybody agree? Tell me if I'm wrong. If I make a mistake, just tell me, because you've seen it's possible many a times. Okay, and now we can do bases and bases, right? So x is multiplied with x's, and we're going to add the exponents this time. We're falling back a power law, right? Because we're multiplying bases that are the same. Okay, and there's just a 1. There's a 1 in front of here. So we're going to go 3 times 1 is going to be 3. X to the power of 4 times x to the power of 4 is going to be x to the power of 8. And then y to the power of 8. Okay. Next one, f. Negatives out front. 4 squared. P to the power of 2. Q to the power of 4. Read it. That one need explanation, or are we all okay? I think I'm all right, actually. Okay. Now, this one, I would say on the entire page might need the most amount of caution. Okay. There's a couple little things going on in here. And where I would say, if you look at a question and go, I don't trust myself, write it out in expanded form. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying write expanded form for every question. But if you look at one and go, I'm not happy with that, and I don't trust myself, write it in expanded form. Sam, did you have a question? Okay. We can come back to it too, Sam, if you want. So I know, because I've done this a few times, that cubed has to go on to everything. And you might just think, I'm just going to put the cubed on the top and call it. No. Got to go on the bottom as well. But this is a perfect example of a question. Because there's a lot going on in here, I'm going to write it out in expanded form. And then just multiply everything out. Okay? So it means I have 3 of what's inside that bracket. So I'm going to have negative 1 over 3 m cubed n squared multiplied against 3 times. Okay? I'll move it over to, I got some room. Okay. Now all of a sudden when I look at that, it's not as daunting when I look at that. Okay. Something like negative 1/3 times negative 1/3 times negative 1/3 times m3 plus 3. Probably don't need a bracket there, that's all right. And plus 3 and n2 plus 2 plus 2. Is everybody okay? Again, I don't expect you to do this for every question, but if you ever look at one and go, I'm feeling uneasy looking at this. This is like, just write it out like this. And then just apply your more basic rules. Okay? Now, the point of interest, and I think where everybody kind of, I don't think anybody would have, I shouldn't say that. I don't think this is the hard part of the question. I think most people would probably get that part right. Where I think people are going to get it wrong, and the fact that there are 3 negatives as well. Okay? And so let's just be careful. 3 negatives, make a negative number. So that hasn't gone anywhere because it's an odd number of negatives. And then we learned about how to multiply fractions. The tops, all the tops, doesn't matter how many of them you got. It's top times top times top. Well, 1 times 1 times 1 is going to be 1. And in the bottom, we're going to have 3 times 3 times 3. Well, that's 27. And then just add up everything else. M to the 9, N to the 6. And another way to write that would be M9 Does anybody have any questions for that one? Just be careful. It's okay to write in an expanded form. It's okay to take your time on one question out of 7 or 8. The ones you think are tricky. Be careful. Now, a very common thing, what I was getting to earlier, like what I was saying when I was in first year physics, they'd put that answer, they'd put this answer, like this would be A, B might be M9, N6 over 27, and then C might be, and EQAL could do this. I don't know what they're like. I don't know if they're mean like that or if they're like whatever, but they'll go through the questions and make a purposeful mistake that they know people make mistakes, and then put that answer in the multiple choice. So you go through the whole test and you leave like, oh my god, I got all the questions right. You get it back, you got like 30%. It's a complete shock. It's awful. Okay? But they might also put an answer like, I don't even know what else they'd put. 3 times 3, whatever. Doesn't matter. You guys get the point? They can kind of they can be tricky. Purposefully tricky to kind of like make your life miserable. So just be very careful, okay? That's what I'm saying. Like if you just look at a question and go, I don't trust myself to do this correctly, write it in an expanded form. It doesn't matter which one it is. It's always going to work, and it all comes down to your organization. Right? Okay, can we do the last one? What time we got? 1:05. Okay. Last one. Then I'll let you guys try the next question. Okay. Let's deal with this. I think your first move, get rid of any powers to powers. Okay? So you might need to write a new line. Okay? And once you're here, numbers, A's, B's, and C's. Just organize. Holy. Okay, is everybody happy with what I've written there? You tell me. Okay. Yes, Avery? Okay.
Where did you get like the 1 from?
Which one? This one?
One beside, no, the 3 times 1.
Oh, there was a, I just made it, if this was anything but 1, it wouldn't be there. So it was 0, it wouldn't be there. And if it was any other number, it would be there. So it's presumed that there's a 1 there. Okay? If it was anything else, it would be there. And if it was 0, it wouldn't be there at all. Okay? So it's a 1. Okay, and the same principle. I just put a 1 on all this stuff. Anything without an exponent, I put a 1 on. Okay? So now we could go 3 times 1 times negative 2 is going to be negative 6. A cubed, B 8, C 14. Okay?